For the first 2/3 of the movie, anytime she gets scared, she's just like, did it succeed? Hell no. A lot of his performances, like really strange looks, like. This is the movie really where Michael Myers started to turn into a zombie. Vile, over the top, just F-word and cunt and everything like that. It's, like I said, it's very 2000s. You got young actors in there like Josh Hartnett, you got LL Cool J, the definitive slasher out there. John Carpenter, his second best movie behind The Thing. A lot of people would put it as his first.
Well, this may be about a month overdue, guys, but it is time to finally rank the Halloween franchise after the release of Halloween 2018. If you guys saw my 31 on the 31st video that I did in coinciding with Drum Dums, Brian Lomax, Mother Mayhem, and Will I Like It Reviews, who finally dropped his fucking video, then you kind of already know my ranking. But for those of you that did not check out that video, or if you just want to hear me talk about the Halloween franchise just a little bit more, elaborate on my ranking a little bit more, and see how things have changed from the first Halloween ranking that I did a couple years ago, which is by far the most watched video on my channel, as crazy as that seems, then this is the video for you. And I will say, this ranking has changed a bit. It actually surprised me after I reviewed all of these films and kind of dove into them a little bit more, watched them a little bit more, gave them a different perspective, how some of the films in this franchise, some of them went up in the list, some of them went down in the list. So this is going to be a different ranking, not just because of the inclusion of Halloween 2018, but because I'm a different Halloween fan than I was a couple years ago. It's going to be a different ranking than that first video. So that's going to be good for some of you, bad for some of you. But let's check that out. There's 11 movies in the Halloween franchise now. So let's start off at number 11. Kind of a point of controversy, even though I'm saying both these movies suck. But Halloween 5 is my worst of this franchise. It was in my last video. Everybody said no, Resurrection, no, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is clearly the worst. For me, Halloween 5 is clearly the worst. It's boring as shit. That's the one thing that holds it back the most, because as bad as some of the other movies in this franchise are, this is the only one that's boring. And being bad and boring, that's the kiss of death for me. Aside from that, I think Myers is garbage in this movie. I think The Mask is garbage. I think the direction they took the story and how much they shit on Halloween 4 in almost every single way they possibly could pisses me off. With just abandoning the great ending, with making Jamie a mute. What the fuck was that? Making Myers wear that weird-ass pimply face mask for a while. How they make Loomis creepy as fuck. I mean, he's just weird, and he's like even almost as weird and scary as Michael Myers in Jamie's eyes. Like, she's just as afraid of him in this movie as she is Michael. Not a good direction to take Loomis. And it's just not a good movie. Then you get the character of Tina. Holy fuck, I almost forgot her. One of the worst characters in slasher history. Ah! Kill that bitch. Number 11, Halloween 5. Number 10, the movie that most people put at the bottom of this franchise, but for me has just a little bit more entertainment value, a little bit more, and that's Halloween Resurrection. Resurrection sucks. I'm not disputing that. The beginning of this movie, huge cardinal sin. The ending of this movie, as far as the Freddy shit, not the cool Freddy, the Busta Rhymes Freddy. Cardinal sin. Even the scene in the middle of this movie when Freddy is talking shit to Michael Myers. Because Michael Myers walks away and doesn't throw a fucking knife right in between Busta Rhymes' eyes, cardinal sin. Unforgivable shit. Not disputing that. But everything around the cardinal sins, to me, is still a somewhat moderately entertaining early 2000s horror movie. It doesn't feel like a Halloween movie, but it's still mildly entertaining. There's some halfway decent kills. There's some halfway entertaining characters. Myers looks okay. Not a great mask. Not one of my favorites by any means, but a decent mask. But there's some scenes, like when he's walking through the little corridors underneath the house, all that shit. There's some stuff in this movie that is entertaining. So it's just a little bit better than Halloween 5 to me, but still not a very good movie. So that's number 10, Halloween Resurrection. Number 9, one of the biggest changes in this list, Rob Zombie's Halloween. I actually like this movie quite a bit more than most of the sequels in this franchise when I did my first ranking. Not anymore. This is a movie where every single time that I rewatch it, the things that I like about it, I like even more. But the things that I don't like about it, I fucking hate even more. And there's more stuff that I don't like than the stuff that I do like. So every single time I watch it, it drops like just a little bit. just a little bit. And I've rewatched it enough times between that last ranking and now to where I can easily say this is one of the worst of the franchise because of the first half of the movie. I think the first third of this movie is completely unwatchable. All the shit in the background as far as the past, the going into the psychology of Michael Myers as a child, all that horrible fucking dialogue, atrocious. I could skip the first third of this movie entirely. You get the middle chapter as far as the, you know, sanitarium side of the story, and it's just a gigantic missed opportunity. All the stuff about, you know, all the sessions between Loomis and Michael, we kind of want to see how interesting that is. They don't even really explore it all that much. And then the two different versions of the escape you get this generic Michael just breaks the chains and breaks out in the theatrical version, and you get this what the fuck out of nowhere, completely unnecessary Rob Zombie as hell rape scene in the director's cut. Neither one's very good. You get to the last third, it's actually a pretty good, ramped up, ultra violent, Rob Zombie styled rendition of the John Carpenter Halloween movie. And it's entertaining. It's not as good as Halloween, the first one, obviously, but it's entertaining. So that last third brings it up quite a bit from the last two on this list, but everything before that just dropped it way down for me. So number 9, Rob Zombie's Halloween. Number 8 is the most frustrating movie in this franchise for me, and that is Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. On one side of the coin, this movie has the most atmosphere, some of the most style, one of the best Myers, one of the best Myers masks, some of the most brutal and awesome kills, and some of the most crazy, kind of frantic versions of storytelling in this entire franchise. On the other side of the coin, you get characters I don't give a shit about. You get Paul Rudd in a horrendous performance, regardless how much some of you say he's great. I don't think he is at all. You get one of the most fucked up stories as far as the way they tell the story in two completely different cuts that are both equally incomplete feeling. And even Drum Dum's little Halloween mirrored kind of cut where he puts both of them together, it's a more entertaining version of those two, but one, it's not an official release, so I can't give it credit. And two, there's still things that are missing. So there's a lot of things about this movie that I want to love. And it's still one of the more entertaining movies if I pop it in. I could pop it in and enjoy this movie somewhat, but so much about this movie just makes my head hurt about how much they fucked up when this could have been one of the best in this entire franchise easily for me. But unfortunately, it's not. It's on the bottom half of this franchise, and that's number 8. Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. Number 7. And this is where I have to start dodging bullets, and this is where hopefully enough time has passed where people will actually listen to my explanations and won't attack me for them and make me feel like I have to take 3 weeks off YouTube just to kind of get away from it all. Number 7 is Halloween 2018, guys. Now, don't get me wrong. I said in my review, I said it in 31 and the 31st, and I'm saying it again here. This movie has potential to move up. This movie has potential that upon rewatch, upon a couple of years, upon a little bit of distance between all the stigma and all the bullshit that surrounded the release of this movie, I might end up liking it a little bit more over time. I don't think I'm going to like it a lot more, but there's some things that might not seem as bad over time, and there's some things that I might actually appreciate more over time. The potential is there. But as it stands now, this competed very heavily with Halloween 6 for the most frustrating movie in this franchise. Best Myers since the first Halloween. And I think if James Jude Courtney gets another chance, he might overtake Nick Castle as the best Myers ever portrayed. I wholeheartedly believe that. The best mask since Halloween 1. In some aspects, I even like this mask more. One of the best directors and some of the best filmmaking in this entire franchise, especially since John Carpenter. Undisputed. Some of the best, tension and being a serious Halloween horror movie and not trying to do all this weird shit throughout the entire runtime. Yes. Where this movie has problems. Oh, and Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis is good too. I mean, you expect her to be good when you come back. I don't think I like her character as much as I did in H2O because it seems very far-fetched in this one, but she does great. So that's good too. I like the daughter. There's some good stuff in there as far as that. Where this movie falls quite a bit for me is the script and the writing. Because there's so much in this movie that's just thrown in, especially characters that are thrown in just to justify the smallest little plot point later on in the movie. You get that what the fuck thing with Dr. Sartain, where he turns out to be just as fucked up as Myers, and he's orchestrated the entire thing, and he kills Will Patton, who was a great character and should have been in the third act of this movie, and he puts the fucking Myers mask on, and all that shit. Just the whole fucking thing with Dr. Sartain, right there. Then you get the ending of this movie. Dr. Sartain and the ending are the biggest problems I have with this, and the humor. The humor is just misplaced and badly written throughout most of this movie. But you get the ending, total blue balls ending for me. And they even have had reports come out since about the intentional or the intended ending whenever they were writing the script at first, but then they got rewrote and reshot. And basically everybody, including the people that love Halloween 2018, are saying that ending would have been better because Jamie Lee Curtis would have died. And you could have had a redemptive story and a swan song story for Laurie Strode and still had her die and let this franchise fucking go somewhere else for once. But no. Everybody survives, and now when you get the sequel, they have no choice but to bring Jamie Lee Curtis back. And once again, Halloween is handcuffed to the character of Laurie Strode. So it makes absolutely no difference whether they're siblings or not, because it's going to be the same fucking storyline. And I'm ranting on this movie once again. Do you understand why it's so low on this list for me now? Again, potential it can move up, but it's the most frustrating movie since Halloween 6. And in some ways, it's more frustrating than Halloween 6. So this is where the fuck it's going. Deal with it. Oh, and that score by John Carpenter, that was some badass shit too. One more positive. See, I like some things. Number 6 for me is the movie that most people who have seen Halloween 2018 compare it to, and that is Halloween 2. Now, this is a sequel that I think is a very good follow-up to the original John Carpenter Halloween. You could cut out the credits and make it one big movie and you wouldn't miss a beat. I think it's got one of the better Myers masks. I think that it has a lot of good kills and a lot of good gore. It has a lot of that Carpenter feel to it, but it also suffers from being paint-by-numbers slasher. This takes away all the tension and all the supernatural stuff of the first movie and just makes this a straight-up Friday the 13th inspired slasher. Halloween inspired Friday the 13th. It was basically a ripoff. And then Halloween 2 did the same thing for Friday the 13th. They saw the success of the ultra gory Friday the 13th franchise and said, let's do that shit with Michael Myers. Then you get Halloween 2. Love the hospital setting. I think Laurie Strode is basically not needed in this movie almost because she's regulated to the third act. I think Loomis is pretty good, but he gets kind of regulated to this side story until the third act. And it's just a movie where Michael Myers goes through this hospital and just kills meaningless characters until you get to the third act. So entertaining as hell. A lot of nostalgia there, which is what hikes it just a little bit above Halloween 2018. And there's not all that weird shit that just frustrates the fuck out of me. But it's definitely a huge step down from John Carpenter's Halloween, which is why it is down here at number 6. Number 5 for me is another movie that's changed quite a bit on this list because I was very lukewarm at best when I first saw this. And that is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. I actually really like this movie now. When I first watched it, when I watched it a second time, I mean, it never really clicked for me. It just felt like a cheaper version of John Carpenter's Halloween, which I held in huge regard. And the movie just never really, it had so much build up with the fans because most fans put this at least on their top 3 that when I finally watched it, I was just like, what is so great about this? Well, I finally get it now because when I watched it for like the 3rd or 4th time, and I just kind of relaxed and just let myself enjoy the movie and wasn't really trying to critique it or compare it to John Carpenter's Halloween. There's quite a bit to like in Halloween 4. And Myers, I think, is great. I don't like the mask. The mask is the biggest negative for me, so I'll just get that out of the way now. The mask's horrible. But Myers is pretty good as far as the portrayal. The story, yes, it's kind of going through beat by beat John Carpenter's Halloween, but it kind of needed to after Halloween 3. I think the characters are really good of Jamie and of Rachel. And then you get the side characters like Grady, like Wade, and the chick that refuses to show her tits in this movie, or actually the director refused to show her tits, I forget her name. But you know who I'm talking about, especially if you saw my review. Why? These characters are really good and entertaining. You get the whole aspect, which is one of my favorite aspects of this movie, where Myers actually kind of systematically takes on this town and shows that he actually knows what the fuck he's doing, and he is a human with supernatural elements to him, kind of getting back to that John Carpenter's Halloween. He takes out the power to the town, takes out the police force, then he takes on Jamie and the little barricaded house that they're in. All that stuff is great. The ending, one of the best in the franchise. So Halloween 4, I had a little bit more negatives. If you want to see my full spoiler-free, well, spoiler-filled actually, I don't know why I said spoiler-free. Want to see all my thoughts on that, you can check out my review. But the mask was the biggest negative for me. But Halloween 4 hiked up quite a bit on this list. It was on the bottom half for me a couple years ago. Number 4. Now I gotta dodge bullets all over again. This is the movie in this franchise that I acknowledge fully I am one of the very, 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 very small percentage of humans on this earth that actually appreciates and likes this movie. But I'm gonna defend it because I still hold strong in the fact that I think this is a very misunderstood, damn good, ballsy ass sequel, and that is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. And I just lost 100 subscribers. Fuck it! Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, to me, gets everything right that Rob Zombie's Halloween got wrong. This is when they took the handcuffs off Rob Zombie and said, make your own movie, which pissed off 99% of the earth, but the few of us that actually really like what this movie was going for, it feels like Rob Zombie's vision. It feels like something that he actually got to do what he wanted to do. It's ballsy, it's unique as far as the portrayal of Myers, as far as the storyline that he decided to go into. It's the most gory and brutal movie in this entire franchise. I think the direction, the camera work is great, and the cinematography is great. I really like Scout Taylor Compton as Laurie Strode in this movie much more than did the first movie. I love Tyler Mane as Michael Myers in this. I like the fact that he's kind of like this guy walking the earth, that when he puts the mask on, it's just to kill somebody. He's not just walking around with the mask the whole time. It's different. I like it. You get Brad Dourif as Sheriff Brackett, and one of the best performances in this entire franchise. Some say it's a performance this movie does not deserve. That one's for you, Brian. And I just think this movie has so much going for it that it really is a shame that a lot of people hate it as much as they do. Like, strongly fucking hate it. Just look at the comments. Look at the comments. People are hating on me right now. But I love this movie. Like with Rob Zombie's Halloween, every time I watch it, I hate it even more. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I like it even more. It just works for me. So that's why it's my number 4. Number 3 for me is Halloween H2O. Now, this is another movie that actually, until I really got deep into the horror community, I didn't realize so many people disliked. I have always loved H2O. This was the first Halloween movie that I got to see in theaters. It's always been one of my favorites. I love Jamie Lee Curtis and the direction they take her character in this. I think that Michael Myers is pretty good in this. Not one of the best, but certainly not the worst. A lot of people just give Chris Duran shit constantly, and I never understand it. I think that he actually has a lot of the echoes of Nick Castle and some of the things that he does. Not quite as good, but you know, there's subtle things in there that I feel like makes it a continuation of Halloween and Halloween 2. It makes sense. So I like that. Yes, there's the mask debacle. Yes, there's some Scream-ish aspects, which to me is not it ripping off Scream, but it's just it being a late 90s horror movie, which they all felt like Scream. Then you get some of the characters, which I like a lot, like Josh Hartnett, his girlfriend, I can't think of her fucking name right now, but all those characters, the kids, they feel the most like the kids in the Halloween John Carpenter film to me. And Jamie Lee Curtis, her performance, her character, her story, and the third act when she takes on Myers and that badass ending, that's what raises this up so much for me. I think this is a damn good sequel, and I enjoy it every single time that I watch it. So number 3 for me is still Halloween H2O. Number 2, if you've done process of elimination, please don't tell me any of you thought this was actually going to be number 1. Come on. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Just like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, which a lot more people have come around the camp of Halloween 3 in the past decade or so, so it's not quite the same situation, but there's a lot of hate for Halloween 3 out there in the Halloween fandom world. A lot of people put this at the bottom just because it doesn't have Michael Myers in it. It's worse than Resurrection just because Michael Myers doesn't show up. Fuck you. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch is great. If you're not on board for the wacky storyline, fair enough. But if you hate on this because it's not a Michael Myers movie, then you're just... that's an opinion I don't even want to consider. So Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, it's wacky. It should not be a Halloween movie. They should have just called it Season of the Witch. I think a lot of people would have loved it when it came out if it had not tied itself to the Halloween franchise. But the story and the wackiness and the grittiness and the gore and the soundtrack, especially the score, all of that, the characters, Tom Atkins, baby, all of that shit makes it to where, as much as I love the character of Michael Myers and as much as I love this franchise, I actually have a morbid curiosity for how things would have went if this had succeeded and they stayed the course with the anthology idea, because I just love Halloween 3 to death. This is one of my favorite horror films of all time, and it's a movie that I regret that I did not watch it earlier in my life, because this would have been one of my favorite movies of all time as a kid. I know it in my bones. And it was very high on my 31 on 31st. That tells you how much I really enjoy Halloween 3. Yes, controversial pick for number 2, but fuck it. Halloween 3, I think, is badass and one of the best movies in this franchise that I'm so glad a lot of people are starting to appreciate much more now in 2018 than they did back in the 80s when this was released. So number 2 is Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Number 1 is John Carpenter's Halloween. You don't need any explanation. It's fucking John Carpenter's Halloween. That's why it's number 1. You want an explanation? Watch any of the millions of videos out there that talk about how badass this movie is, how it's a classic, how it kick-started or really gave a huge breath of life to the slasher franchise. And it's a movie that most slashers are compared to, especially Halloween films. This thing will never be dethroned as the number 1 in this franchise. If it does, then you know that's one badass fucking Halloween sequel, if it even comes close, because it's like John Carpenter's Halloween, Halloween 3, and then the rest of the franchise. Nothing's coming close. John Carpenter's Halloween is the shit. That's all the explanation you're getting. So that's it, people. Sorry I couldn't give this to you on Halloween, but 31 on 31st was something that had to take precedence. I needed to take my little break and now I'm back. So Halloween ranking, if you've been salivating for it, there it is. Those are my thoughts. That is my ranking. I'm sticking to it. Post your rankings down below in the comment section, guys, and tell me why. Don't just put numbers in the movie titles. I like to hear actually the reasons why you have them in certain spots, just like you like to hear my reasons. That's why you're watching this video, right? Put those down in the comment section below, guys. Please like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. If you guys want to check out some social media links, check out Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter down in the video description below, as well as my Spreadshirt store, which has got a bunch of designs by the great Woody Bowen, and my Patreon page, which is a great way to give back to this channel and help this channel grow while getting cool exclusive content for your eyes only. So check all that out, guys. And if you want to check out some more of my videos, including my reviews and ranking of the entire Halloween franchise, you can check that shit out by clicking right over here.